What is up, Nephilim? This is the Chig coming at you with another Diablo video. This time we're going to be talking about D4 because I want to see what this end of the endgame video is. I've not watched it yet. I want to see what they got to say. I'll put in my 2 pennies and yeah, let's talk about it. Let's get it started here.
We're really excited about getting this game into players' hands, letting them experience this massive world.
A main cornerstone of D4 is play your way. As a player continues to advance through the story and into the endgame, they'll unlock a ton of brand new activities that
So that's another video I want to watch and kind of give my 2 pennies on, is the play your way thing. So that's kind of exciting. I'm looking forward to that because the monster scaling and stuff, with all the thousands of hours of play to the other D3 or the other Diablo games, I'm getting kind of excited about not having to have super linear progression paths.
provide meaningful progression, no matter their playstyle.
Players will be able to keep progressing in the narrative of the game. Alongside that, the whole team has worked on crafting a variety of different experiences players can pursue.
We're going to have an entire world of Sanctuary for our players to offer. There's going to never be an absence of something to do.
After the player has finished the campaign, there's a lot more game to go and participate in. They gain access to a special, what we call capstone dungeon that they have to complete. Once they're able to finish this capstone dungeon, they're going to gain access to the first world tier.
As you
So, I don't know how close you guys have been following, but you can start on World Tier 2, which is kind of like normal mode. A couple of the other guys that cover stuff, Riker kind of put it in a good way. He said playing it on World Tier 1 is like kind of playing the game on easy mode. You don't really have to try, you don't really have to worry about too much. And then playing on World Tier 2 is basically playing a game on normal mode, right? So it's going to be fun to see how the capstones work, how challenging they are. I'm really excited to see just how much depth there is into, hey, it's leading up to this, and then once you get there, how much of a power spike the capstone's going to be and how much grinding you're going to have to do to even complete it, or if it's just going to be something that, okay, you've got a couple decent synergies, you're level 50, you can blow through it, and now you've got an actual challenge and you're going to be getting real gear and then continuing.
complete the world tier, it will open up the opportunity for you to go into your next world tier. That involves unlocking powerful loot, new items, and more advantages for your player to have a better opportunity at end game.
Whether you're
So the powerful loot thing, I do think it's really cool that getting into the later world tiers is what gives you more powerful loot, not necessarily your character level. I mean, obviously there's levels that are required for different drops to actually come, but I like the idea of once you get to the next level, you can get items that are better just because you're there, kind of like in D2 when you go from normal to nightmare, nightmare to hell.
a fan of dungeons, PvP, or just roaming around the world, there's a way to continue your Diablo adventure long after hitting max level.
Something else I'm interested in, I never really did PvP in any of the other games because I never really took the time to learn it. Even though I've been a hardcore grinder a lot, I didn't really take the time to learn the PvP system, so I think this is going to be an interesting endeavor, and I think there's going to be like people who are dedicated on that, and based on some of the other things I've heard, you can get really good gear just from doing the PvP objectives and stuff. And then on that, I'm thinking I might personally have 2 of each class, one for this is my grindy boy to get gear, and one for this is my setup for PvP to grind in that manner. We don't know if the gear is going to be differentiated between PvP and PvE yet, but it's going to be interesting to see what kind of synergies and stuff help with PvP that may not necessarily be as good for PvE and vice versa.
As your character continues to grow in power, you'll start with the skill tree and expand out into the Paragon system.
A lot of the choices the players make are grounded on skills themselves. And
Oh, speaking of skills, that's something I've actually made sure I've not looked into. I'm going to play the server slam this weekend, just, next weekend, to be ready for it or whatever, because I want to get some footage for myself. But I've been trying to do a complete blackout until I played the game. So I'm really excited to see the way things work and like the actual trees and things. Like I've seen like little snippets like that we just saw, but I've not really delved into it yet. So I'm super excited. When I talk about other things, I will link videos of the other creators because I do want to put some stuff that some of the other guys I've seen have posted. I do want to put some links to like Warlugs and Riker's videos, and also some of the other people that are smaller creators like myself that have been putting out like opinions and build guides for the other things. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. Hopefully you guys can support all of those guys as well.
The fantasies associated with those skills. The Paragon board is a place where we allow you to have a lot more depth, a lot more customization, many more options as you go.
You can rotate the board, so you can choose a different path if you're like, I want to do more strength-based things, or I want these particular boons or glyphs. You can chart your path through it, and they're really a way for you to keep expanding your character and making it uniquely yours.
So the Paragon boards I'm super excited about as well. They're reminiscent of anything of the class trees in Path of Exile. So if you play that game, you kind of know how it branches out and things kind of spiral, and you can kind of pick where you're going and stuff. And there's some nodes that are super powerful, some nodes that are just some stats, some nodes that are just resistances. So I think that's going to be really fun and really interesting. And I do like that once you're max level, if you ever get there, obviously, that you'll have your Paragon board maxed, and that's going to be like it's going to be incredible to see how this actually plays out and what the ladders and stuff are going to look like. It's going to be, I'm so excited for it.
Similar to the Paragon boards is the Codex of Power. It's an in-game system that holds the aspects related to the character. You are able to complete a dungeon, and they will have a chance to drop an aspect that you can pick up.
And what this allows players to do is take items they're finding in the world and make them more powerful.
Yes, so these aspects that you're getting from the dungeons, this is going to be huge while you're like trying to find your gear. So you need to find a couple of these. Like obviously you want to do all the dungeons and get all the aspects you possibly can while you're leveling because any power is better than no power on your gear, but it's going to be important to figure out which ones are synergistic with what you're trying to do based on your build and your character. So you kind of have an idea, okay, I pick up a new piece of gear, I'm going to go bonk this on it real quick, and I'm going to be good to go. Obviously, you want to have powers in as many places as you can, and I don't have a lot to speak to with that. So when I talk about that, I'm going to link to somebody who's got a little more knowledge than I do that's explained it a little better. But yeah, so getting those aspects is going to be super huge to get you started. And I think that's probably going to be what I focus on most when I start playing because it's going to make it easier to progress your character. It might be harder to get through the dungeons the first couple of times, but after you're rolling and you have a couple of aspects and you can just be like, bang, cool, now I'm stronger, now I'm stronger. Every time you pick up a piece of gear and you replace it, go back to the altar and put it on there, right? Just be like, bang, we're good, we got this. And then that way you kind of got an idea. I'm even going to make a spreadsheet that's like, okay, while I have this power, I'm going to put it on this slot. So like, whatever it may be, I'm probably going to play barbarian. So obviously I'm going to put the stronger ones on my weapons because that's how they scale better because you get 100% extra on weapons, 50% extra on amulets and stuff. Um, so I'm really looking forward to how this is going to work and how we're going to be able to find synergies and stuff. It's like the cube on steroids, pretty much.
Turn them into legendary items.
It's really special to discover what kind of playstyle really means the most to you.
Speaking of that, playstyle, that's something else I think is going to be incredible because we're not going to be locked into. I mean, obviously, there's going to be meta stuff, but I think there's going to be more effective, you know, meta is most effective strategy available, right? Um, or most effective tactics available. I'm sorry. So that's what meta is. So there's going to be things that are off meta that are a whole lot closer to the strength than what we currently have now because the way the multipliers work in D3 and D2 and stuff, like you kind of have a set of like all of this stuff is so much better than the alternatives that there's really no reason to experiment and play with it. Because there's the people that do the math crunching and then they're done immediately. Like it's like, okay, cool, this is solved, we're done. That's one of the exciting things about this is it's not solved yet, so we get to figure out some stuff. Like I'm considering just doing thorns on my first character just to see how it goes, right? Like it's gonna just be, all right, we're gonna figure this out, we're gonna do what we can do, and we're gonna see what kind of synergies we can come up with just to be like that guy, right? Like I've always liked the thorns builds in every other game I've played. I kind of like being the guy, okay, hit me. Oh, you hurt yourself. So, that's kind of what we're going with here. So
Every part of Sanctuary is fulfilling and satisfying. Dungeons in particular are really close to my heart. Nightmare dungeons are going to give the players the opportunity to experience a dungeon that they might have already experienced in their past playthroughs. They'll enter the dungeon with a found sigil that alters the playstyle and the intensity of the dungeon.
They're more difficult and they have additional objectives, and then they also have affixes, which add a degree of difficulty for you and your group to work through.
One of my favorite affixes that you can find in Nightmare Dungeons is actually called Hellgate. Occasionally, these portals will open up throughout the area.
Something else I'm super stoked for is the Nightmare Dungeons. I'm curious to see, because this is something that they can change pretty easily. They can give us new sigils that give us different affixes at any time, right? So like there might be a patch where we get a ton of new sigils for something, or we get this, that, and the other, right? Like some ladders may be based around that, and that's like some really like in-depth things that they can play with, because there's more to it than just throw a key in a box and roll. This is, okay, you already know what this dungeon is, but this key is going to make it do all of these extra things, and I think that's going to be an incredible exploration space for the devs of the game, and it's going to be a lot of fun to kind of see how things go.
It will just pour out different monsters that aren't native to that region for you to also be dealing with while you're trying to handle everything else inside the dungeon. There's over 120 dungeons to play through and find in Diablo IV, and any one of them can become a nightmare dungeon by finding a nightmare sigil and then using it to activate the nightmare version of that dungeon space.
Everything's a little darker, everything's more difficult. It's going to add a little bit of a twist of flavor on your particular dungeon.
Something else that's kind of neat too is the monsters that are unique to areas. I think I heard Riker say something about there's different types of items that drop more often off of XYZ, right? I think his example was bows drop more often, or crossbows drop more often off of skeletal enemies. And he was kind of explaining, if you go to these dungeons with your assassin to farm bows, you got a little higher drop chance off of these mob types in order to be able to get these things, which is incredible when you think about it, because you can't really target farm things, but if you've got X% more chance to get an item for that slot while you're there, then you're actually like kind of target farming, which kind of feels good in the like grand scheme of things. You're like, heck yeah, we're doing the thing. We kind of got this idea of, okay, so if we kill these mobs, we might get a bow, or we kill these mobs, we might get a two-hander, we kill these mobs, we might get a necklet. Like it's kind of cool to think about that kind of thing, and actually have the capability, without gambling, obviously we got gambling in the game, to have the capability to target farm.
There's some targeted activities in Diablo 4 that suit what you're feeling in the mood for.
The Forces of Hell are starting to have more influence in certain parts of Sanctuary and the vast interconnected overworld of the experience. And as the players are going into Helltide areas, they're going to find even more powerful monsters. And by killing them, they'll be able to gain these special shards they can take to go and use to purchase these big rewards are available at these caches that are found littered throughout Helltide areas.
The sky darkens and the rivers run red, meteors fall from the sky, and the monsters get harder. We really want to create new experiences for the players. There's one I really like called Whispers of the Dead, which you get from the Tree of Whispers. The Tree of Whispers is grim and a little gruesome, but it's also something mystically haunting and kind of beautiful.
The tree has a little bit of a grudge against our players, and it would like for them to go serve its needs. So you're going to go serve these bounties, gather different rewards, different items, and bring them back to the tree.
So two things. The Helltides are going to be really cool. They remind me of like all the events in like Rift and Guild Wars and stuff, where like there's just this open world event that happens and you can go participate, and that's going to be really cool. And then so the Tree of Whispers is kind of like our bounty system. They give you a quest, you go do the quest, you get rewards. And yeah, like I said, I've not heard a lot about this, but like as I'm hearing more, I'm getting more and more excited about it. This is really like, all right, cool. We're doing this. We've been waiting a long time for this. I've been playing D3 since 2012, and tens of thousands of hours, and we finally get something new that's going to be, fresh and man, final stretch. We're getting there. It's exciting. It's exciting.
In hopes that it can exchange you something really meaningful.
Maybe you're going to go to the Fractured Peaks and take.
So that's the first time I've seen that. So let's back that up a frame. That is the first time that I had seen that on
It can exchange you something really
that.
meaningful.
So this is really cool. You're going to turn it in and you're going to get a box of whatever those things are. That's awesome because like okay, so you just get a number of rolls on boots or gloves. So that's kind of I mean obviously you only got three choices, but like okay, if something's falling behind, like you got a pair of boots that are mediocre or like your gloves are crap or you're looking I don't know if you know you can get legendary powers on these items or not, but like okay, if you're looking for something specific, you know, and you know gloves can roll offensive abilities, then maybe you get the gloves or the weapons because they can roll offensive abilities, or the boots because you know they do defensive stuff. So, I mean, it's more like this is even more exciting than our current bounty system, which is you know get some mats to reroll some things or craft some items. So this is really just seeing this is amazing to me.
Maybe you're going to go to the Fractured Peaks and take out some werewolves that are rampaging in a town. They're contained activities that you can do alone or in a group. We really wanted to create variety for people to be able to spend time where they wanted to in the world. It's very cool the way it's been put together, and I can't wait for people to see it, to be honest.
In Diablo 4, we have a focus on the world.
So that's something too. Being able to do what you want to do and still progress your character is going to be huge because like the systems we've had here is like we're going to do Bell runs, we're going to do Endario runs, we're going to do these runs in D2, or we're going to farm Greater Rifts as fast as possible in D3, right? Like those are the options you have. With this, like okay, if you want to do dungeons, go do dungeons. If you want to go do Hell Tides, go do Hell Tides. If you want to you know, X, Y, and Z, go do whatever it is you're wanting to do. Like, I'm really liking the idea that there's more. I mean, obviously, there's going to be something that's most effective. There's going to be a most effective way to farm gear. There's going to be a most effective way to farm XP. There's going to be, I mean, you know, some people have already found out, like, do this dungeon and reset it, do this dungeon and reset it, right? Um, which is part of the reason why they took the reset dungeon button out. I mean, you can still reset dungeons, but it's not as quick. So, you know, they're kind of trying to nip that in the bud before it even gets started. But I'm liking the idea that you can try things and do what you want. Like, obviously, I'm going to do dungeons and stuff, but I don't want to be sitting there grinding them when I can be progressing my character. I'm not going to be grinding dungeons until after I finish the campaign, right? I want to do all the quests I can get my hands on. I want to explore. I want to find everything. I want to get my Altars of Lilith done. Like, my goal before the first season starts, before the first ladder reset, is hopefully to have a max character, which I don't know how long that's going to take. And, you know, I work full time or whatever, so that's going to be a little tough. But to do that, not only, but I also want to find all the altars because we don't know if they reset yet. So if all of the things for the altars are still there when the ladder resets and you don't have to find them again, then you know your leveling experience is going to be substantially easier because you're going to have like all of the synergies from that. You're going to have extra stats. You're going to have this. You're going to have that, right? So it's going to be interesting. And if you do have to start over with the altars when you start a new ladder, like knowing where they are, right? Having the experience of running through, like you can set up your path where it's like, okay, while I'm doing X, Y, and Z, I'm gonna go around here and I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna go get these altars, and you kind of know you can kind of put them in your path, um, or you can like try to plan it where you're veering less to either side when you do that. I'm gonna fix my lighting. I can tell that it's starting to mess up my face here. But yeah, you can kind of plan around it because you're already gonna have that experience and you're already gonna know.
Of Sanctuary. And there are parts of that world that we call the Fields of Hatred, where Lilith's presence in Sanctuary has begun to seep through and manifest these poisonous areas throughout the world. When players go to these regions, they get to engage in player versus player conflict.
These offer opportunities for the player to collect shards. But there is a little bit of a catch. In order to get these shards back to town, you'll need to purify them. Other players will definitely know that you're attempting to purify your shards, so you'd better be prepared to fight if you're going to be playing any PvP, and be prepared that you might lose some stuff in the meantime.
Once they've got the purified shards, they can take these, go back to nearby towns to sell them, and then use that to buy a whole bunch of like interesting cosmetic items and rewards.
It's a place for people who really love PvP and want to still get loot and still increase their character's power. If that's the way they want to play, they can.
launch is just the beginning. One of the things we're really focused on is creating a living, breathing set of updates for players to engage with after the game has gone live.
It's really just going to be a way to keep coming back and experiencing more Diablo 4 in fresh ways.
We're really eager to hear all of your experiences and just enjoy the entire story with you all.
I like how they're approaching this, how this is just the beginning. We're going to be getting new stuff. Like I spoke a minute ago, like being able to get different affixes and nightmare dungeons and stuff is going to be huge, right? Like it's going to help a lot. Like it's going to be able to give them infinite variety because they can always change something. They can always make a key do something else, which is opening up for a lot of design space and making it where they can make it fresh a lot, you know, because we might be doing these same dungeons all the time, but if the only thing that's the same is the name of the dungeon, not necessarily how it plays out, then you know you've got your variety there, and it's going to be really good. Guys, get excited! We're here. It's right around the corner. We got to hit this server slam next weekend. We gotta kill it, guys. I'm gonna be streaming. I'm gonna be doing it. It's gonna be good. I'm gonna put my stream and stuff. I'm gonna start putting my stream and stuff in the comments because I'm ready for it, man. I'm gonna go in on this, and now that I'm actually in a position where I have time to make stuff and have fun with everybody, I'm here for it. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. Anyway, I hope you guys liked it. I'm loving this. It's the excitement is real. The excitement is real. If you stuck around, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Don't forget we're having a giveaway. Once we hit 1,000 subscribers, we're doing it. But yeah, and I'll see you guys out there. Go get those legendaries, man.